runners, are you over 40 or looking to get started into running or restarted into running? So this is kind of fun. What's the one thing I would give advice for somebody starting running later or getting back to running even later is practice the action you need to do for your run. And this is important because especially as we get older, we lose things like natural ability to use elasticity. Things that were so easy to do when you were younger just start to get a little bit more difficult. And it's kind of a day by day. So if you used to run and then you just get restarted running, you might think, well, it's my conditioning. And I'm just here to tell you that what happens over time is that it gets more and more challenging to do a couple of things. And one is keeping your knees bent. And this is important because in order to practice the action of running, you want to be able to stand with your knees slightly bent. And what's important about that is that you can practice doing that anytime you're standing, and you can practice when you walk. So as you get older, it gets to be more important to be aware of how you're standing, how you're sitting, how you're walking. Your movement is important. So when you're just standing, and I call it the ready stance, check that your knees are free. And how do you do that? Well, you do that by, first of all, make sure your body weight is in the balls of your foot. The whole foot is relaxed on the ground. So like you can feel that your whole foot is touching. You should be able to wiggle your toes, and most of your body weight is in the ball of the foot. And if you stand that way, and what happens is, see, I'm checking that my knees are free. So if you're watching, you'll see that I'm actively letting my knees just kind of move back and forth. And if you're not watching and you're listening and you do this later, the idea is that we should never feel pressure on the knee joint. So if you're standing without awareness of how you stand, you may actually be pressing back or extending the knee. I see this a lot. And what happens is when you press your knee back, you have a false sense of balance. So you've pressed yourself back and you feel like you're way more stable, like you feel like you're really locked into the ground. The challenge with that though is that when you try to move, you have to then unlock the knee, which is an action. So this is important because if my first movement is actually letting the knee release, then you'll start to realize, or maybe you won't, but you'll feel it in your run, that you're actually doing more actions than you need, more effort than you need. So a lot of people when they run, and they do this when they walk as well, especially as they get older, because of not understanding about the knees needing to be bent, people start to walk with their hips. And by the way, with older women, as soon as I think it's 65 still the age, but once a woman falls, she has an increased chance of breaking her hip. And once that happens, the chance of recovery is really hard. So the goal for you, male or female, is to not fall, but also to have stability in your movement and be able to move well. So one, you avoid falling, of course, but also you have a better chance of recovery. So what happens is this: if you practice just standing in your ready stance with your knees bent, when you go to walk, let's just start with walking before running, and you start to be aware of your movement. So what does that mean? That means in order for me to start walking, I'm going to do an action. What is my action? My action is to actually pull my foot up from the ground and then use my torso to travel. So I'm going to lift my torso up, I'm going to pull my foot up, and then when I feel my foot has touched the ground, I'm pulling my other foot up. See, this is the action of walking, is to pull my foot up, to lift my torso up, to make sure everything is in its place, and to keep my knees bent. So I'm really encourage you guys, I do have, of course, a walking video on YouTube you can watch. I encourage you, of course, to do the free 3-2-1 run I have up to get you started into running and to combine walking and running. But most important, guys, there's an action of movement, right? So when you're going to run, right, I just said when I'm going to walk, I make sure my knees are bent, and I'm going to use a pull action. I'm going to pull my foot up, right? It's important. That's the action I want to use for my run. The main difference between walking and running is that in walking, I can have both feet on the ground. So my pull foot is this foot to lift up, right? But this foot is balancing me, right? So that when I put this foot on the ground, then I can pull this foot. So in walking, you have balance because both feet are on the ground. In running, one foot only on the ground. So in running, it's not fast walking. Running is running. It's its own action. Running is standing, starting in that running pose, allowing the body to use gravity to fall forward. And then this is where your job comes in. Your job is to pull this foot up from the ground. So then when you run, your job is to let the body fall, and then you pull your foot up. And the best part, guys, is that when you start to do this, two things happen. One, immediately you're going to use less impact. Because if your knees are bent and you're pulling the foot up, you're going to use muscle elasticity, which less effort on the muscle, less impact overall. So, that's really nice. And the second thing is you also let go of an action that you might not have known you were doing. And most of us, when we run, we either push, reach, or both. And that's just the way everyone runs. So like I've been watching people run for 35 years. And it's also how I used to run, just so you know. Most people, what they do is they press into the ground and then they reach forward. And then what happens is you actually get twice the knee strain, because when you push off the back and you extend your back knee, then you're going to get stress on the knee, stress on the calf, stress on the Achilles, all the way down the leg. And then you lift up and your foot's going back behind you, and then you still have to bring it forward. So extra work. And then when you push off the back and you lead with that front leg, it's called reaching. And that reaching action puts a lot of impact in the front. So you're on the back end, you've got the calf, the Achilles, the hamstring, everything posterior getting stressed. And then you immediately stress the front, the hip flexor, the quad, the knee, the shin, the front of the foot. So this is why running, of course, gets a bad rap. And a lot of people will quit or they give up on running because they say, well, it hurts my knees, or I feel tension. So to take that tension out, you've got to do stand with your knees bent. You've got to practice that. And here's something I put in. This is also always, all of our stuff's free for you guys to check out, but glute walks. So I tell people, when you're first getting back to movement, to walking, to running, whatever movement, are your glutes active, right? Because this is important. When I'm standing still, right? We don't think about this. What muscles are you using right now just to stand here? What muscles are you using? Because guess what? A lot of your muscles are working. The majority of your muscles are working. And in running, all of your muscles are active. So the important part is this. It's not really to focus on trying to control all your muscles. It's to control the ones that you can control and then let the other ones do what they're supposed to do. So if I'm standing and my knees are free because they're bent, then what is actually working? What muscles am I using? Well, really my postural muscles, because I'm holding myself upright and I'm really making sure that my line is correct. So also my glute muscles are working simply to stabilize my hip and hold me up. So to keep that in mind, so the important part, because we hear about this glute stuff a lot, I encourage people, I call it glute walks, to start really focusing on standing glute work. Make sure that you can feel, this is called a glute walk, squeeze the glute, right? Can I feel that my glute is on? And I also have, you'll see this if you do our warm-up one, glute bridges are the first thing I tell people to start their day with, because I want to know they're working, right? As you get older, you have to have more conversation with your body parts, like, are my glutes working? Are my abs on? My chest lifted? So it's kind of a check-in. I always do check-in on your ready stance, which is your standing stance. Check in that your glutes are working, your knees are bent. And these are things you can check in throughout the day even. It doesn't have to be when you're walking, when you're running, just when you're standing. Are my knees free? Am I holding my chest up? Are my shoulders open? Right? These are the kinds of things that you get in the habit of. But for running, really important to practice that running action. keeping my knees bent and pulling my foot up from the ground. That's my job in running. And we have a bunch of videos on pull practice, but the more you just understand even the why am I pulling my foot up? Because when you are traveling forward and this foot pulls up, the hamstring will actually bring the foot up, the hip brings it forward, gravity drops it right here, ready for you to pull up again. So the best part about practicing the pull is you can do it in place, and then I give you tips on like ways to feel your pulling. So if I'm standing still and I don't want to look, I don't have a mirror, I use my own foot. You can check that you're pulling. And then I help you to make sure you're using the hamstring. This muscle here, your hamstring muscle, is really the main action muscle for running. And what happens to a lot of runners, they push, they reach, they start using their calf and their quad. Their calf and their quad. And this guy's not getting used. So you're gonna be more inefficient, you have more chance for injury, more like lopsided things happen. So a lot of people will say to me, I have one side that does this, the other side does the other. And I'm like, well, honestly, you actually have the ability to run symmetrically, you just haven't been using the right action. So if you're trying to push with the calf and then reach with the quad, that poor hamstring gets left out. So, by the way, the other thing about being older and coming back into running is I really, really encourage people to practice somewhere that you can hold on. And the reason I say that, so I'm going to hold on to this, is because in the beginning, we have to practice standing on one leg because that's really what running's about. So I don't expect you to just be able to stand on one leg. Hold on to something. And then I give you tips on how to pull, how to make sure you're using your hamstring. So what starts to happen is you work on the running action, you work on your running posture, your position, your pose, and you work on making sure that everything is working as it should, just in place. Then you practice pulling in place. And all of that is the precursor to running. So when you go to run, you know what to do, you know how to do it. And you have like skill drills to check in with. And I do that, you guys see that all the time. I post little drills because when you're out running, right, what do? I'm out running and something starts to feel off. Just being able to stop for a second or even not stopping and just doing a drill. I'm supposed to be what? I'm supposed to be pulling. So I could be out running and I'll do a few single legs. See, I'm just reinforcing my run action. 1, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, up, 2, 3, up, 2, 3. Once you start to feel like this is what running's supposed to feel like, then we add the breath, then we add the conditioning comes with just getting out there and doing. It's a lot of fun, but having a to-do and being able to practice your to-do when you're actually not even running is a really great way to get your body to want to keep running. How's that? Now I'm in my mid-50s, so I laugh now because I was like everybody else when I hit 40, like, oh, I'm 40. Now I'm like, oh, 40 was nice. But those are the things that I started to really notice then. So here I am 15 years later. My knees are still good. I can still hop. I can still run. And so much of that is because I spend that time in my ready stance and doing my pull practice. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for subscribing and listening to those that already have. If you haven't, we'd really appreciate it. And check out the app. Like I said, we got the free app. You're always welcome to join us at runrx.fit. And comment below if you try the pulls and if they're helping you in your run. Have a great run, guys. Thank you.